it's very timely that such a conference is organized. This is the time in the history of the growth of knowledge that we feel we have the knowledge that can really make mankind at large fulfilled. Science has grown enough today to be able to lead man to fulfillment. The knowledge of one basic reality by handling which everything can be handled is very profound now on the level of physics, and we feel very encouraged and inspired when we find that such an element, one ultimate element, was known even in the most ancient record of knowledge, the Veda. And our hopes rise to the supreme level of height when we know that this ultimate element discovered by science in the modern times and recorded in the most ancient record of human experience in the Veda can be easily experienced by everyone today. And not that it can be theoretically, not that it can be experienced by everyone today, but that it has been experienced by over 1 million people in the world today. So we are on a threshold of knowledge which is going to generate a beautiful world. A fulfilled human race will be born out of this knowledge which bridges the gulf between the past understanding about the basic reality of life and the present understanding about the basic reality of life from mathematics, from physics, from chemistry, from biology. Every science has been investigating into deeper realities, and by now knowledge of the ultimate from the field of science and knowledge of the ultimate from the field of the ancient record in the Veda, and that knowledge becoming a practical experience on the level of one's own awareness. These three things matching together give us a promise of a very complete life, life in which all possibilities will be displayed. The picture of nature according to Vedic knowledge is of a very great variety. The principle in short may be narrated in an expression that knowledge is structured in consciousness, and knowledge is different in different states of consciousness. Any experience is on the level of consciousness. So it's very obvious that any knowledge is structured in consciousness. We see something, the picture of the object travels through the retina of the eye, falls on the screen of the mind. The mind becomes the object, the impression gained by the mind. So it is on the level of mind, it is on the level of consciousness that the experience takes place. And this leads us to see that whatever the object, it doesn't matter. It is as one can see it. Through the green glass, everything will be green, doesn't matter what its color in reality is. Yellow glasses will see only yellow. So it's a level of consciousness. Sociologists say the world is as we are. Whatever is the object, its characteristics, in reality, doesn't matter. It is as we can see it. If we are drowsy, perception is dim. If we are clear, perception is very clear. So this understanding that knowledge is structured in consciousness is a very obvious thing. And once we have this, immediately what follows is that knowledge must be different in different states of consciousness. In sleep, the whole doesn't exist. In dream, it may be a banyan tree. In the waking, depends in what state we are, drowsy or clear or what. The different states of consciousness bring about the knowledge in different shades. Vedic literature brings about the understanding of nature, understanding of creation, of the world, in terms of different states of consciousness. Never there is one theory of creation. Never there is one understanding about creation. Various understandings, various theories, each on its level only. On a different level of consciousness, things are different. Just this refined value of knowledge makes the Vedas a supreme authority on knowledge. It's not that the world is like this, or like this, or like this, or like this. It is experienced differently in different states of consciousness. That is why in the entire Vedic approach to enlightenment, that is gaining true knowledge and complete knowledge, the entire approach is in terms of consciousness. The goal is to rise to that level of consciousness which may be said to be supreme. No more higher level of evolution, that unity consciousness. And on that level, life will be on its supreme value. It's like as we ascend on the mountain, as we go higher up, what we see is a bigger horizon, bigger horizon. We come on the plateau, all around 360 degrees open to us. Like that, as the consciousness is growing, perception is becoming refined. With the degree of perception rising, the knowledge is becoming more and more and more and more. About the ultimate state of experience, Vedas bring about the entire creation in terms of consciousness. It's just like all these varieties, differences, green and flat and round and red and full of fragrance and tender, soft, all these various qualities in terms of the ultimate value of everything, and that is colorless sap. Everything is structured in sap, just like that. The entire creation structured in consciousness, which is the ultimate reality. It is possible today to understand this Vedic understanding about life in oneness on the level of unity consciousness. It's possible today because we are helped by the knowledge of the ultimate reality discovered by physics. That vacuum state, that state of least excitation, present in all the excited states. Colorless sap, present in all the colorful expressions of it. Everything is an expression of the sap. And a gardener, a skilled gardener, knows how to operate on the level of sap, and knowing how to operate on the level of sap, he can bring about desired changes in all fields of its expression. Knowing consciousness, being capable of functioning on the level of consciousness, one would be able to bring about desired changes in all its expressions. Anything is possible for human consciousness on that level of unity consciousness. Everything is possible. Just like that everything is possible if the gardener knows how to operate on the level of sap. The entire thrust of Vedic wisdom is to rise to that level of unity consciousness and live a life of all possibilities. Just by handling the roots, the gardener handles all aspects of the tree. And to handle consciousness must be very, very simple, because consciousness is our own self, the I. It's easy to handle oneself, by far easier to handle oneself than to handle anything else. In this is the skill of gaining knowledge and giving knowledge, receiving knowledge from the Vedic text, that they teach to handle oneself, which is the ultimate reality, the unmanifest ultimate reality of everything. And being skilled in handling one's consciousness, one automatically gains skill in handling anything that one wants to. Now this is human potential. a field of all possibilities. Every possibility open to human consciousness. Just because that in reality is the ultimate of everything. This human potential, known from the past record from the Vedic literature and hinted at by the discovery of the vacuum state, verifies our experience, the mind quietening down and the state of least excitation of mind, state of least excitation of consciousness gained, and then every impulse of consciousness is expressive of anything that we want. Experiments are going on in the field of consciousness or the field of all possibility these days. Hundreds of very good minds are engaged in experiencing this and trying out. This is that supreme knowledge of life which delivers the fruit of all knowledge in one's awareness. The fruit of all knowledge is the ability to do anything which brings about eternal contentment, fulfillment. So the handling of the ultimate reality, developing that physiology, developing that skill of functioning of the nervous system which will project that level of consciousness which will be able to enliven anything, any result. This is the gift of the wisdom of the Veda. I would like to quote one verse of Rig Veda, one hymn of Rig Veda, which sums up the entire thing in such a simple, clear way that it tells us the whole story of the whereabouts of possibilities for human life. It says, yes, this knowledge is structured in consciousness. Richo akshare. The knowledge is structured in consciousness. This consciousness is immortal because it's unmanifest. There is nothing relative about it in its pure state, of course. In its expressed values, so many different states of consciousness, sleep, waking, dreaming. But in its pure state, transcendental consciousness and eternal reality. In this eternal reality, in this field of subtle state of awareness, all the impulses of creative intelligence abide. A very, very beautiful picture. The whole thing becomes clear on this one example, that all the impulses of creative intelligence responsible to bring about the green leaf or the red petal, all of them abide on the level of the sap. Whether we say impulses of creative intelligence or talk in terms of the laws of nature, some certain laws of nature responsible to bring about the green leaf from the unmanifest sap, certain other laws of nature bring about the red petal from the colorless sap. Certain laws bring out the round stem, certain others bring about the flat leaf. The different laws of nature bringing about different things, but all of them function on the level of the sap. As if sap, colorless sap, the source of all these expressions, is the home of all the laws of nature. Just from this example, we see the meaning of this Vedic hymn, that all the impulses of creative intelligence abide in that level of consciousness which is immortal. Not the relative value of consciousness, sleep, dream, waking, that which changes, but the non-changing value of consciousness, and that is the seat of all the laws of nature. It's the same thing as in quantum physics. State of least excitation is that basic ground from where all activity begins. And that basic ground from where activity begins, that is the center of creative intelligence. That is the beginning of all the laws of nature. From there, all different laws come out. And that value is pure consciousness. Pure consciousness is no activity, just very simple, like a silent bed of the ocean. The waves may be there, and when the waves settle down, it's a quiet surface of the ocean. On that silent level of the ocean, all possibilities of waves exists. In that quiet level of consciousness, which is unmanifest, all possibilities of manifestations exist. And to experience that state is a very natural procedure. For a wave to settle down, it has only to stop rising, relax, and it starts to sit down. Any wave of consciousness, thoughts, understanding, or emotions, experiencing all these different activities of consciousness, for them all to settle down, the experience is that it happens automatically. And this we attribute to the very nature of consciousness. The nature of consciousness is said to be to expand, to evolve. From the unmanifest, manifestations begin. Now, when we say from the unmanifest, the manifest creation comes out, this is the reality on one level of consciousness. At other level of consciousness, this is a mirage. Yet on other level of consciousness, there is no question of manifestations, it's all unmanifest reality. It's like the understanding of the red as we see it. But in reality, we know it's all unmanifest sap, colorless sap, because every grain of red is nothing but colorless. There is something basic, and that basic is real. Something that is superimposed on it is phenomenal. We see the sun rising in the east, traveling to the west. The sun does not rise in the east, it does not travel in the west, but we see it. So what we see may be a reality, may not be a reality. The deeper investigations decide it. At one level, it's all red. At some other level, it's all colorless. And when every part of the red is colorless, sap, then from where the red has come out? This is another level of understanding which describes that the red is a mirage, only the colorless is there. These different levels of understandings bring about different philosophies of life. Each philosophy is based on some experience. Experience is based on the level of consciousness. And consciousness we know to be 7 levels. Sleep state of consciousness, dreaming, waking, transcendental consciousness, cosmic consciousness, supreme level of cosmic consciousness, celestial perceptions, God consciousness or unity consciousness. At different levels of consciousness, the whole reality of life is completely different. And in this what we find is the total picture of knowledge about life. Various understanding about creation, about the beginning of creation, so many different theories. One doesn't have to be confined to one, and one can't dismiss the other because only one can be the reality. The reality is in the vision of the observer. Whatever the level of consciousness, that is the reality. This huge picture of infinite variety and every aspect of it right on its level. This is the wisdom of life. A complete picture about what is what. There's huge amount of Vedic literature bringing about in greater details every aspect of these different philosophies, different principles that explain what is what in creation. But all that becomes real and practical when one gets into a process of raising the level of one's consciousness through a refining process of our nervous system. Nervous system becomes purer and purer, stresses, strains go away, and the activity of the brain becomes more and more normal, and then purer consciousness begins to be displayed. Greater reality comes along. So in this very complex but very clear picture of the origin of knowledge and its range throughout the universe, how much, what huge variety exists. But all that on the basis of what one is. This knowledge of what ultimately one is as reliable as objectively verified knowledge through any scientific experimentation. Scientific experiments are afraid of bringing any subjectivity in it because subjectivity is changing all the time. Moods change, visions change. But this science of consciousness gives us a level of consciousness which does not change. That is supremely developed level of consciousness, unity consciousness. When the unity consciousness is established, it does not change. Any experience from there would be as reliable as any objectively gained knowledge. It is in this reliability of the knowledge received on the level of one's own consciousness, the reliability of knowledge gained subjectively on the level of one's consciousness, and the reliability of the knowledge gained through objective means of gaining knowledge, any scientific methodology. Both these are equally reliable. And the beauty is that when one develops one's consciousness and unity gained, the reliability of experience is once for all established. Then there is no mistake. It's as reliable as any scientific knowledge. That is why we can have the expression Vedic science. That only means science of subjectivity, where the objectivity of science, the reliability from the objective level of science has the same meaning as the reliability from the subjective level of consciousness. So objective methodology of gaining knowledge, subjective methodology of gaining knowledge. The difference in the approach is that one grows within oneself to amass that supreme level of knowledge, which is the total knowledge, true knowledge. True and total, reliable and complete. Complete for its magnitude and reliability for its non-changing nature. There are many, many theories about creation. This is the same. This story is the same. It's like there was a time when the whole creation was thought to be made of 92 particles. Atom was thought to be indestructible. And then that was broken, and that was broken, and that was broken. And now finer particles, now theory of the four forces, and now unified theories coming along. So this kind of understanding about life, as the scientific knowledge has grown and has discovered newer and newer areas, more and more basic as the discoveries went on. Same thing is in the field of consciousness. As the consciousness grows more and more and more, from waking to transcendental consciousness, from transcendental to cosmic consciousness, from cosmic consciousness to unity consciousness, as the consciousness grows, newer meanings come along. Not that the theories of the 92 particles making the universe have been dismantled, but because they were true on that level. When you change the level, then some other realities come along. Then you change the level, some other realities come along. So the knowledge is on the basis of how much we are able to experience. Same thing is in the case of consciousness. As the knowledge of consciousness unfolds, as purer levels of consciousness come to direct experience, the vision changes, and with the change in vision, the realities change. And when the realities change, different philosophies come out, different principles come out to explain that phenomenon, that level of understanding, different levels of understanding. This is what is responsible for various kinds of philosophies about life, principles on which the understanding about creation is based. The whole thing, when we describe like that, looks to be so complicated. But when one experiences purer levels of consciousness by silencing one's activity of the mind in a natural way, as one experiences purer levels of consciousness, one grows in understanding as the perception becomes more and more refined. Then one knows this reality, all right, that was all right last year, and this is a different story, now this is a different story. Like children, when they play with a small motor car toy like that, it's very real for them, it's going like that, and so real. And as they grow, that motor car, they know it was a toy. The books become a little bit more real, and then the influence becomes more real, and then the rest becomes more real. The levels of perception rising, the realities rise. And in this display of different understandings about creation, no understanding can be said to be wrong, because that was it on that level. This is this on this level. This is this on this level. In this way, the upsurge of unity consciousness harmonizes, it synthesizes all knowledge. Knowledge where differences predominate, and then the knowledge where, with all the differences, unity predominates. So, on the top level of understanding about creation, being as real as one's own self, all the relativity, ever-changing values of objective here and there, everything experienced in terms of oneself. Everything as real as oneself. In this enormously synthetic understanding about life, the diversity remaining there does not disturb one's harmony, one's evenness. And this is the supreme level of life. Rig Veda is very, very clear about this harmony of vision, this unified vision on the basis of unity consciousness in the individual and also in the whole society. The entire society in evenness, with all the disharmonies and differences, unity prevails. This principle of harmony in the individual life on the basis of the refinement of his vision and rising of unity consciousness, this extends its influence of harmony in the whole society. And that we are very proud to quietly observe as a beautiful phenomenon which is going to give a different structure to our society. more holistic structure, more harmonious structure. And that is that influence of 1% people practicing transcendental meditation in a city, reducing crime rate and sickness rate and accidents. That is the diversifying values become more harmonized, more evenness comes along, more balance gets established. This by even 1% of the people practicing TM, they're the beginners. And as they practice more and more transcendental meditation, greater harmony rising in the vision becoming refined because the stresses are being resolved. So vision is becoming more and more unified. With this, an influence of harmony, evenness spreads in society. So this knowledge, whereas on the theoretical level is highly diverse in order to explain all the diverse experiences on the path of growing knowledge. It has to be diverse. But on the top level of knowledge, it's highly unified. It's very highly unified. We look into the philosophical thesis about what structures creation, this, and one says there 25 elements are there, and some says 3 elements are there, 5 elements are there, and then eventually 1 element is there, and that is consciousness, that is my own self, that is your own self, that is all this is nothing but that. So all the principles that profoundly explain the source of diversity, the range of diversity, changing values of everything, and the goal of all this change, which then eventually ends up in a non-changing eternal reality, immortal, infinite, and that one's own self. Everything in terms of myself. So the very profound knowledge is there to explain every aspect of this experience, and as the experience becomes more refined, newer principles to explain that experience comes along as newer philosophy, different philosophies. So many different philosophies. But in one picture, the creation as it is, life as it is, on certain levels of awareness, full of diversity, full of complexities, full of change, ever dying thing. You know? We have the existentialist philosophy, everything dying. It's an experience. And then to explain that experience, all principles comes along. You know? And then when other experience comes along, then even change is found as an expression of non-change on one level. And then later on, change is found to be non-existent, only the non-change is the ultimate reality. What a profound picture of complete knowledge. And every aspect of the principle comes to be validated. The principle, the theories come to be validated on the level of personal experience. As the consciousness grows, vision of unity grows. And intellect explains all that. And these become different philosophies. But this whole realm of understanding is so interesting. One could get absorbed and lost at every level. That is why it is customary in the study of Vedic principles about life that one must practice meditation, morning, evening meditation, and then study. That means purer consciousness. As the purer consciousness grows, newer meanings come along. And this is the progression of knowledge, that the container of knowledge, the mind, the content on which knowledge is molded, that material in which the knowledge is sustained, in which knowledge is structured, that material of consciousness must become purer and purer and purer and purer. So along with the increasing purity of consciousness, the understanding about the structure of nature, about how the nature functions, it grows. And how it functions, how the nature functions, may be a different thing today. That will be one philosophy. Tomorrow, after some time, the nature functions differently. Different levels of understanding grow.